So good afternoon, everybody. We have some technical problems here, but let's start the webinar. And it's great to see that there are so many people joining us, and I can see that people are jumping online and joining us, signing up to the webinar. Low season travel, harnessing the magic of darkness and dark skies. We have about 350 people registered today, so you're very welcome. And even though people are coming online, let's start the webinar. Anyway, apologize for my own voice here from Turku, which is slightly sunny today, and a little bit of snow falling, but I have managed to get the flu. But thankfully, I'm not going to talk too long. Unfortunately, we can only share the presentation at the beginning like this. And today the webinar is a co-production with two Interreg projects, Light in the Dark, which is working around the Baltic Sea area, and then in the northern periphery area of the Interreg program from northern Lapland, northern Norway, Iceland, and Ireland. Then we have the team from GLOW. And today we'll be talking then about the reasons for low season travel and for utilizing the dark period of the year, and then also dark skies. And I hope you'll get a lot of inspiration today, and then also a lot of concrete things that you can think about and also implement, both in your regions and then in your companies. We have quite a nice mix of people from small tourism companies, destinations around our area, and then also some people from universities. I hope you can see these slides at the moment. Today's session will be recorded, and we'll be putting some links into the chat box. For those of you who are listening to the recording, you'll see the same links in the text box underneath the video. If you have any questions, we'll try to take them up if there are time, but if there's no time, then we'll be monitoring the chat and the question and answer section, so we can have a good discussion there. And feel free also to comment on other people's questions. But as I said, we are a big group today joining, and it'd be nice to know where you're from. So please feel free to put in the chat where you're joining us from today. Perhaps you want to mention the weather, or if you have something that perhaps is quite unique to your area, something that you think could really drive the challenge with seasonality, so to attract tourists outside the main season, so to attract them in the low seasons of the year. Just to mention some of the projects that we're working on, the GLOW team will introduce their project at the end of the webinar. Light in the Dark, we are working in 5 countries around the Baltic Sea, nature-based tourism in the coastal areas, and we have 11 partners. We're working both with destinations, with the visit organizations, and then also with small tourism companies from throughout the area. We're creating a new brand, or a common concept, to try to raise awareness about the low season travel possibilities throughout the Baltic Sea area. And then we're doing that with visit organizations in the region, and then with small tourism companies from throughout the region. We've been developing product offerings within these experience categories that you can see. They were analysed at the beginning of the project as being the ones that have the best market potential in Europe. We'll put the link to our website into the chat box, and you're very welcome to go and check out the videos and also the webinars that we've produced already, so the findings that we have from throughout the project. The products that we are now testing, and also the concept that we're testing, these will be published towards the end of the year, and we'll begin having a webinar and also reports about them. And this will all be freely available on the website. But as we approach the issue and the theme of low season tourism, quite often it's interpreted as being a push for 365. And I thought there was a couple of quite important points to maybe raise at the beginning. One of our research clearly identified that the most profitable companies are actually the ones that give dedicated time where they close the companies. Most companies are small, so there's not enough capacity within the company to both produce services and then concentrate on maintaining quality, improving customer offerings, and then also working on sales and marketing. So it's very important to also think when we're talking about low season, what are those seasons that we're actually going to approach? What are the ones that are have the most possibility? And of course, you can't do it alone. One tourism company isn't a big enough argument to come to a destination. There needs to be a collaboration between companies offering the services, and also then between the destination and onto then the sales and distribution channels, so to DMCs, for example, and incoming agents. And of course, for the low season, segmentation, it's the most important thing. In the summer, or whenever the main season is, it's possible to have a main offering that you can provide, and then still have the possibility to get people, tourists on board. And but in the low season, you really have to think very carefully what you're selling and to whom and what are the demands. And some of those ideas we'll be bringing up today. I'm afraid my screen is not collaborating with me today, but I would like to introduce our first speaker, and it is Jed Brown, and he is the founder and CEO of Low Season Travel in the UK. And I would like to ask also Matthias if you would have the possibility to put, maybe I can find now Jed here, sorry, put Jed on the screen. So the floor is yours. Perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself and then also share your presentation.
I will indeed. Thank you so much, James, and a very good afternoon to everybody. I'm delighted to be here, and thank you to James and Interreg and the team for having me. Let me get my presentation up on the screen. Hopefully you can all see that. Do I have confirmation, James?
Yeah. Yes,
we
can see you.
Okay, perfect.
We can see the screen, yeah.
Super. So first of all, just a little brief introduction about myself. My name is Jed Brown. I have spent my entire life in tourism since I left university, working for a number of organisations in aviation. In tourism, I started out as a high street travel agent. I've worked for Travel Weekly, for TUI, for Thomas Cook, and a number of major companies, all over the past sort of 30 years, really. And over the past 6 years specifically, I've dedicated my life to promoting the experiences during the low season months. And I founded Low Season Traveller, also the Tourism Seasonality Summit. I'm the host of 2 podcasts which are focused on the low season months. I'm an active member of the World Tourism Association for Culture and Heritage. And again, we'll get into that a little bit more because cultural heritage travellers tend to be low season travellers. So I've been really active in this space for the past 6 years in particular. And then other than that, I like family, tennis, sauna, people, animals, culture, music, travel. But I always say I'm more closely defined by what I dislike, which is crowds, stress, chaos, and cruelty of any kind. I absolutely abhor. So you could say I'm a lover, not a fighter. What I want to talk to you about today, though, is, I suppose, the opportunity of low season tourism more widely. I'm just going to pop you down there. So I want to talk about why there is a huge growing opportunity for low season tourism and why the conditions have never been better. And a quote that I love is that rare things are more valuable than common things, and that's why gold is more expensive than iron. So if you have something that's rare, and usually in the low seasons, what you have, the gold that you have there is indeed rare. It's something really quite valuable, and that's again something that I want you to bear in mind as we're talking through this today. 6 years ago, when I started Low Season Traveller, I came across a quote which really spoke to me. And I've always been fascinated by the tourism industry, and I wanted to understand as much as I could about this sector that we work in. But the quote is, if you want to know your past, examine your present conditions. But if you want to know your future, you need to examine your present actions. So I started on that journey pre the pandemic to think about, what are the present conditions and what are our current actions to try and understand things. So examining the present conditions, this is back in sort of 2018, 17. What I was seeing was this all over, extreme cases of so-called over-tourism. I don't like the word over-tourism because to be over or under anything, you need to have a point of reference. It's quite evident, really. And in a lot of these destinations, they don't know what the optimum number of tourists is, and at what point it becomes too many. So therefore, to call it over-tourism, how do you know it's over-tourism? It certainly looks that way, but you need to have measurements in place. But that's what I was seeing. Mass over-tourism, it was on all of the headlines, and especially so in Europe, by the way, but not exclusively in Europe. Examining the present conditions, what was the data then telling us? So I started to look at the data. So I'm looking at what's going on in the news, and then I'm also looking at the data. And we could see in 2019, the UN WTO was telling us that it had been the best year for tourism. And against the backdrop of the images that I was seeing, I was thinking, well, that doesn't necessarily look the best. And the best for whom? I'm not sure who it was the best for. Was it the best for the travellers? Was it best for the locals? Possibly not. However, UNWTO, 1.5 billion international arrivals in 2019. The trajectory was 1.5 billion was due to be hit by 2024, and we hit that target 5 years early. So clearly, we're really riding a high trajectory on tourism, 300 million above forecasts. So tourism was definitely out of control, which led to, in some cases around Europe, people were sort of revolting and saying, you know what, this is enough. There's too many tourists here, and we don't want any more. So then examining the effect of our present actions, again, looking at the data, and I always look at the data, and a lot of this is publicly available data, and I've referenced it all on each of these slides, and James has very kindly agreed to share the slides with all of you afterwards if you're interested. So what we're seeing right now is that tourism is back on track to pre-COVID levels. And what this is it's Google Trends. I don't know if any of you guys use Google Trends. If not, I highly recommend you have a play with it. It's really fun. But what you do is you put in a word or an expression as the search term, and it will tell you over a given period of time how popular that term has been on everything that's published on the World Wide Web. And the word over-tourism, its absolute peak of being mentioned was in the summer of 2019. That was the most it had ever been mentioned. In 2024, summer 2024, the number of instances of that term being used was double what we were seeing in 2019. So tourism is definitely very much back on track, and we know that from the use of over-tourism. This is just a chart which is again from the United Nations Tourism Barometer for 2024, just showing that tourism for the most part is back to pre-pandemic levels. A little bit of a look at aviation. Again, I work in tourism, but I also work in aviation. And aviation data also gives us an insight into what's happening in the world of tourism, not just within our own countries, but further out. Since 2019, there's been 42 new airports put into operation, 160 new airlines have formed, 43 new runways have been built, and 7,250 new routes have opened. That's just since 2019. Aviation has proven its resilience again. So like with tourism, the slight dips around 9/11 and SARS, slight dip around the financial crisis, massive dip during COVID-19. But it's very much back on track. We're seeing the same number of seats, and that's just a graph showing that aviation is very much back to pre-pandemic levels globally. The other interesting thing about aviation is aviation predicts long term. So typically you have two really good sources, Airbus and Boeing. They tell you how many new aircraft are going to be put into the marketplace over the next 20 years. They do a 20-year forecast. Who of us does a 20-year forecast? Well, these guys do a 20-year forecast, and they're predicting that there will be the demand for 42,430 new additional aircraft in the next 20 years. That should scare you, because it certainly scares me. And when they predict long term, usually they get it right. So their last 20-year prediction in 2004, they were saying that there'd be 25,000 industry deliveries of commercial aircraft, and it was just shy of that. And even on the splits, it was pretty much the same. And again, this is all in the public domain. So aviation's setting to double. The world's aircraft fleet will double from 24,000 aircraft to 48,000 aircraft between 23 and 2042. So we need to take notice when they're saying that, because that means effectively tourism is going to double over that period, which means the world is going to get a lot busier and our destinations are going to get a lot busier. What's driving this growth from aviation and tourism? We know this is from a McKinsey and eDreams and MasterCard collaborated survey, which they did, which was quite significant. 84% will prioritize travel in their budget moving forward. 86% are going to travel more than they did pre-pandemic. And trip lengths are anticipated to be longer than before 2020. However, one of the biggest drivers of growth worldwide is this growing middle class here. The global middle class is going to increase by 1.7 billion from 2023 to 2043. That's the real biggie that's affecting this. When we talk about middle class, we're talking about people who potentially for the first time in their lives have got disposable income. And when they have that disposable income, usually they want to spend it on things like travel, quite rightly, and exploring the world around them, which I think is quite right too. The global middle class is going to increase by 1 billion by 28. So in the next few years, they're already coming. These are coming online already, but there's another 1 billion being added to global tourism. Sorry, the middle class rather, in the next sort of 6 years. Most of them are coming from Asia, mostly from India and China in particular, but 88% of the next billion entrants into the middle class will be from Asia. And interesting, when they travel, by the way, they don't just want to travel immediately around Asia. They want to experience the rest of the world that they've had, to be honest, marketed to them for many, many years, like Europe and Venice and Dubrovnik and all of these kind of places as well. We know that they will spend on travel. At the start of the 21st century, there were 10.5 million overseas trips made by Chinese residents. In 2019, the figure was 155 million. Now, obviously, it dropped off significantly after 2019 during the pandemic, but it's estimated to be 130 million when the final figures are done for 2024, and it's set to exceed 350 million by 2030. That's a huge growth in outbound international tourism by the Chinese alone, and that's not even looking at India and the rest of Asia and the rest of the world. So in 2019, there were 1.5 billion international tourist arrivals, and it took over 100 years slowly to build up and reach that figure. Now imagine 2025 to 2030, another 1 billion arrivals in addition. So less than 10 years to double arrivals. They're coming, they're on their way, and the question is, are we ready for that? But also, what's the opportunities that that's going to bring? So obviously it's going to be a threat, and I think we can see that, and it's very clear. But what are the opportunities of that? If our destinations are getting more and more busy and crowded and stressful, where's the opportunity going to be coming? And for me, the opportunity is really clear. As I said at the very beginning, I crave tranquility and peace. So the low seasons for me is just, wow, that's just natural. I want to get away from that. And the more people that experience the horrors, I will say, of places like Barcelona and Dubrovnik, and sometimes at times of the year parts of Iceland during their immense peak seasons, if you've experienced that, trust me, at the end of it, you're not thinking, hey, let's do the same again next year. You're thinking, no, we need to do something different next year. We need to have the opposite to this. And that's the trend that we're already starting to see. And that's the opportunity for low season travel. So the question is, how can we welcome more tourists in such a way that the economy thrives, but the community, the environment, and the culture aren't negatively affected? Um, and these are the broad brushstrokes that the industry and our sector has come up with is, look, we can increase prices to deter visitors. Well, the prices in the peak season are already up to 6 times what they are in the low season months, and that doesn't deter visitors at all. Arguably, it's the opposite effect. They want to come even more. We could create new resorts and hotels and offering, which presumably would only be used for 6 months of the year. And I have a big issue with that when islands like Tenerife are still planning on building more hotels and resorts because they've got so many tourists. I'm thinking, well, why don't you just fill the hotels that you've got during the 6 months in the year when they're sat 20% occupied? Surely that's the most sustainable use of those properties. And just anecdotally, we know that the built environment accounts for anything up to 30 to 35% of all global emissions. So, building stuff is definitely not a good thing to do. To utilize what we've already got is definitely a better scenario. And that's promoting the unique experiences of the quieter months. That's what we have to do. In most of our destinations, we have some quiet periods throughout the year. And we've already got the infrastructure. It's already built. We don't have to build anything new for it. I think we need to think how we market the experiences, and we need to really examine the experiences that we've got in the low season months. And then we need to look at who do we need to be targeting those experiences to, because they're not necessarily going to be the same people that would come during the peak seasons. So who would come here in the low season and why? It's a question I get asked a lot of the time when I'm doing talks. People say, "Oh, no one would want to come here in the low season," and I think you have to sort of think a little bit outside of the box. Just a quick anecdote on that. I was in Croatia a couple of years ago doing a speech very similar to this one, and a lady it was down in Split, if any of you know Croatia very well. And a lady from the tourism board said, "Mr. Brown, it's all very well saying the low season stuff, but everybody comes to Split. The tourists that come, they come for the sunshine and the beaches." And my simple response to that was, "Okay, could you be honest with me and tell me, as the tourist board, how have you promoted Split over the past 30, 40 years?" And she started to smile and say, "Well, sun and beaches." And I said, "Well, good. I'm not being critical of that. You got exactly what you asked for and what you marketed for. Now you need to look at, what's the message going to be for the people that are going to come at the other time of the year." And if you don't know Split, it's got the most incredibly rich cultural heritage. It's got Roman ruins that are possibly as good as anything in Rome. I mean, it's really amazing. Immense cultural heritage, and that cultural heritage can be enjoyed, in the winter months as well. So it's about trying to think of, who would come here in the low season and why. So the low season niches, like I say, in the past 6 years, I've been working on this with my own organization. And these are just some of the niches that we've identified that are absolutely perfect for the low season periods when it's quieter. Solo travelers who travel on their own, cultural heritage tourism, which we will go into just a little bit more shortly, culinary and wine tourism, wellness and spa tourism, art and literature tourism, adventure tourism, absolutely dark skies tourism, the topic of the day, educational travel and workshops, spiritual and pilgrimage tourism, urban exploration, wildlife tourism, ancestry and genealogy tourism. Accessible tourism, by the way, should be on there because absolutely it's great for accessible tourism and for people who have certain disabilities. Partially sighted tourism. So there are groups in the UK and beyond where they take out people who are blind and have got limited vision. And the organisers were saying to me, the low season is perfect for us because we need to be there when there aren't as many crowds. It's just a little bit easier and a better experience. So this is just some of the niches, but really, when you start to brainstorm this, there's absolutely loads. And I can't get across strongly enough the power of niches in a global marketplace like tourism right now. even on what we do on Low Season Traveller, I always say to our team, when you're doing any social media or anything else, stick to the low season niche. As soon as you go out to a general travel piece, then you're competing with hundreds, if not thousands, of organizations around the world. If you stick to the low season niche, you're competing with maybe 10. So to get that attention, the niches, the more niche you can get, then the better chance you have of getting a really good slice of that particular niche. So it's good conditions for niche tourism. So explore the niches that you feel could be most apt for your destination. And I just want to go through 3 niches which I think are particularly interesting. The first one is cultural travelers. Cultural travelers seek history, art, native science and beliefs, unique lifestyle, local heritage and traditions, adventure, the uniqueness of people, unspoilt environments, authenticity. That's what cultural travelers are seeking. What you don't find on there is the perfect weather. They're not seeking the perfect weather. They're not fair weather travelers. They're perfect low season travelers. Then look into the data behind it. 47% of global tourism has a cultural component. Source UNWTO report on tourism and culture. 15% of cultural tourism is growing annually, according to World Bank. So it's one of the fastest growing segments in global tourism. 60% increase in average spend of cultural travelers in the US, according to the US National Travel and Tourism Office. So they spend more when they're there, these cultural heritage travelers in each destination. 75% visit destinations specifically for their culture. So UNESCO study found that 75% of respondents visit destinations specifically for cultural heritage value alone. So again, what's that telling us? 70% of travelers said they want a more local and culturally immersive experiences. This was a survey by Booking.com last year, really significant one. 70% of travelers said they want more local, culturally immersive experiences, and also an increased preference for visiting lesser known cultural sites. Again, aligning with the goals to alleviate the pressures of over-tourism. 86% of young travelers stated experiencing new cultures. This really surprised me. This was from Top Deck, and it was a survey of over 30,000 young travelers worldwide asking what makes you excited about travel. And a whopping 86% stated experiencing new cultures. And that, look how high that was compared to shopping at 25% and partying 44%. We think we know the young generation, and we really don't at all. They're definitely more culturally sensitive than we give them credit for. The next niche is solo travelers. Again, I mentioned that as one of the key niches, which is really great for low season tourism. Here's why solo travelers are interesting. Searches, this is Google searches for solo travel since 2018. The searches for solo travel doubled from 2018 levels. So there's a lot more people searching out solo travel and tourism. Shoulder hotel bookings are up 5% since 2019, and 70% of that growth is solo travelers right there. So again, this is kind of bearing out that solo travelers are starting to become a much rapidly growing market to tap into. And solo travelers spend 20% more on hotel bookings compared to in 2019. So not only are there more solo travelers around, but they're spending more on their hotel bookings as well, which again is really, really interesting. So it's a really good market to go for. And it's something on Low Season Traveller we started looking at because we only focus on the low season months worldwide on everywhere that we feature. We started to negotiate with different parties saying, well, look, can you guarantee us no single supplements? We want to really do a push on that and say, hey, low season travelers, you don't pay single supplements. And that's one of the rewards you have for traveling in the low season. And most of the hotels came back and said, yeah, we're happy to do that because we've got the capacity. Perfect. So it just absolutely works. Skift Travel Health Index points to solo travelers fueling low seasons. This was a report that came out, just October, just gone, from Skift, which is worth reading. And again, the links to all of this you can get from us later. Just indicating that solo travelers are the ones who are really fueling the shoulder season shift in travel at the moment. Climate change, another really big opportunity for opportunity. Obviously, it's a threat, that goes without saying. But there is an opportunity with climate change as well. There's an opportunity for, if you look just at Europe, for Southern Europe, those destinations, they need to change. They need to embrace their low season periods a lot more now, because the temperatures are getting so high in the summer seasons already that it's not going to be workable in some cases in the not too distant future. So they're having to look into that. But we're already seeing that, and this is from Forward Keys. If you're not familiar with them, they have incredible real-time data on traveller movements. And this was they brought out at the end of last year. Travellers to Europe are choosing destinations with milder climates during the hottest months. Really interesting that the growth in tourism is going to the Northern Europe. The blue line is Northern Europe, the red line or orange line is Southern Europe. And there's a much more rapid growth during the July and August period for Northern Europe than there is Southern Europe. And that was last year. Now, what's that telling you? And I think it's going to be even more so this year. Here it is just shown differently, but it's got on the map there, and it'd be relevant for all of you in the Scandinavian countries and Finland in particular. Plus 12% June to August 2024 versus 23, and Southern Europe was plus 7%. So tourism overall is growing, but it's growing at a more rapid rate in the summer months in Northern Europe. So again, there's a bit of an opportunity there, I think. Data-led insights are certainly a friend, and I think when we're looking at tourism, I think a lot of times we don't always pay enough attention to the data insights that are available to us. This is some slides which I got from a company called Data Peel. They have really cool data. It's data that picks up on sentiment. So they use TripAdvisor and review sites to get a feeling of what the sentiment is like in destinations, and they map it out according to the time of the year. And where it gets really interesting is they can tell you how seasonal a destination is. And this particular example, which I was in Oulu not so long ago, and Oulu's pretty flat actually. It's pretty. It's not hugely seasonal. But what was interesting is they also have this data, which is the greeny blue line here that you see is the sentiment that's gotten from reviews. So the higher the sentiment, the more positive the travellers were feeling about their experience. And the sort of like blue shaded area is the digital traces. That's the volume of travellers in the destination. And what you find that's quite interesting is that the sentiment generally is higher when the volumes in the destination are lower. And that's borne out as well from conversations I've had with hotel groups over the years, where they've told us, hey, as we reach capacity in the hotel, the experience for the guests tails down. And we see it in the reviews, and vice versa. When we're low in occupancy, the experience tends to be higher, and that's because there is a better staff to guest ratio. So these kind of data sources are really interesting, but what they show you is that it's the same in destinations. When you've got fewer people in your destination, the experience is a much better one for the travellers, and I would argue potentially for the local community as well. So seasonality focused resources, Forward Keys and Data Appeal. I can share more information with you afterwards if required. And this is it, be exceptional and be extraordinary. And it's what I aim for. And it's the whole ethos of low season travel is it's rare, it's quiet, it's different, it's unusual, and it's not typical. The low season periods have experiences which are not common, literally because not as many people experience them. So they are more rare. And they're wonderful as well. So it's as they say, it's the exception that proves the rule. You're not the rule if you're focusing on the low season. You're the exception, and the exception is where the absolute magic is in any destination. The time when there's the fewer number of people there, the quieter time. That's where the absolute magic is. And the same with extraordinary. And as I was preparing these slides, when I look up the synonyms, can't say that word, for extraordinary, I love these words because this is what describes the low season periods: remarkable, exceptional, amazing, astonishing, unbelievable, memorable, sensational. That's the kind of stuff that we want to be associating our tourism experiences with, and that's all what I believe is available during the low season months. So, really to sort of go full circle on this, like we said at the beginning, the gold is valuable because it's rare. And if you've got in your destinations and your experiences, if you've got stuff that's unspoiled, freeing, intimate, serene, peaceful, unique, accessible, welcoming, tranquil, all of those characteristics, they're all about to become a lot more rare as we see a huge increase in tourism around the world, especially in the big peak destinations. People will be looking for all of these things. Excuse me. And if that's what you've got in your destination and your experience, then I suggest you're probably going to do very well in the coming years if you can plan accordingly. Last point that I want to finish on is I'm very much a proponent of cathedral thinking. I don't know if any of you have come across this before. I'm down to a minute and a half. I see. I'll have to go through this quickly. Cathedral thinking is the concept of extreme long-term thinking. And it comes from the old European cathedral builders. And they used to build these huge cathedrals, and it would take up to 200 years to build these cathedrals. And the people who laid the foundations, they wouldn't even see the finished product, but they did it diligently, and they did it because they knew if they got it wrong, there would be problems further down the line. And the same with the stonemasons who were carving the very first stones at the base of these incredible pieces of architecture. They did it diligently, knowing they were never going to see in their lifetime the finished cathedral. The same with the architect; they would never see the finished building. And what's interesting about this is it was in about the 80s. There was and there is still a cathedral down in Cambridgeshire in the UK, and it had huge oak beams and trusses supporting the roof of this cathedral, and they were starting to rot, and it was a major problem because the community and the church there, they hadn't a clue how they were going to replace these big oak beams. And long story short, eventually a farmer came forward and he said, "My family's been waiting generations for this moment." And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, it turns out that 700 years ago, when the architect was planning the building of this cathedral, the architects, the first thing they did when they knew what materials were going to be used is they knew they were going to use big oak beams, and they knew that those oak beams would last maybe 600 years before they would need replacing. So do you know what the architects did? They ensured that there was an oak forest planted just within the community, not too far away from the cathedral, because those oak trees would serve as the replacements for the beams for the ones that they were going to use in the cathedral. It's that extreme long-term thinking, and cathedral thinking is about asking, what are you working on today that you won't see the benefit from, but your great grandchildren will see the benefit from. And that's the ethos that I think we need to adopt more in tourism and tourism planning. I think that's my time, James. I think I'm over. All the details are there if anybody wants to reach out, and there's slides. James has got a copy of the slides if any of you would like them. And that's me. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Jed. That was fantastic. And I just love the idea of cathedral thinking and actually thinking about the whole purpose of tourism. Why do we have tourism? The benefit for our local communities, and also the idea to be exceptional and extraordinary. Maybe as a quick wrap up, if a destination or tourism company was taking first steps, 1-2 steps, so what would you do to give us a first step?
I think the first step is getting everybody aligned. I think it's understanding what you've got, and sometimes we take for granted what we've got. We sort of think, why would anybody want to come here? And sometimes you almost need an outsider to show you the magic of the place that you've got. But then I think for me, it's about getting literally all of the stakeholders on board. A really good example of this was I was just very recently I was in Cyprus, and they're really committed to trying to ease their over tourism. And they organised a couple of events where they got everybody together. They got restaurateurs together, small businesses together, hoteliers together, the tourist office together, everybody to sit down and agree, what do we actually want? What are we looking for? And are we all aligned on this together? Because I think you have to involve the local community. They have to be a part of the conversations, not just have it dictated to them as to what's happening. So I think that would be the starting point, is engaging the community, I think.
Great, thanks so much. It'd be great to talk more, but we have to go on. And I think now you've given us the purpose, what we have to do. And the following two presenters will be talking about then the possibility and using, firstly, darkness. And I'd like to welcome Susanna on stage here from Turku to talk then about using darkness as a tourism product, both now and then in the past, because Susanna, you are a tourism or a researcher, historian. Just a big apology to many people who seem to have gone onto another link, actually the previous link. I don't know how that happened, and we're checking what links were sent out by the system, but I'm happy to see that we're having almost 200 people here. But anyway, we will send you the recordings and all the materials as well. Okay, Susanna,
Yes.
do you have the possibility to get your presentation on screen?
Yes. Do you hear me?
We can hear you very well, yes.
And can you maybe see the presentation?
Not yet, no.
Not yet. If I share the screen.
Yeah, you can try that way. Unfortunately,
Yes.
we've been testing it, and like before, we managed to get everything to work 10 minutes before, and then, of course, yeah, now we can see it. We can see the whole screen, but maybe we have to. For those of you also who are commenting on my presentation, I'm sorry. Technically, I just couldn't get the presenter view away, so we'll be sharing these presentations as PDFs afterwards, so that you'll be able to see. Sorry about that. Yeah, no. Susanna, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, James. So if you can hear me, so I'm Susanna, and I'm a cultural historian, and I'm also a museum curator. So my angle to darkness is both a researcher's angle and also a museum curator's. But first, I will show you a couple of questions about my dissertation that I'm writing, so you know what is my angle to darkness. So I'm interested in travelers and history of travelers, but how did the travelers experience the night in the 18th and the 19th centuries? And what kind of emotions and feelings the nocturnal landscape has evoked? Was it fear or maybe wonder? And I'm also interested of darkness as an entity with agency. So these are my angles, but also a museum curator. So at the end of the presentation, I will give you some examples how we in our museums have used darkness in events and guided tours. But actually, how often do we think of darkness as something that has a history of its own? Maybe not that often. And I'm interested of the darkness per se and how it has been experienced in the past and what kind of meanings it has been given. And there have always been a lot of beliefs, different beliefs and symbolisms towards the night and the darkness. And the night, it has represented chaos, world of dreams, time when ghosts and demons were active. Night has been seen as a border, a final frontier to be conquered. And night, of course, can be defined as a lack of light. And night has a long defined the length of daylight, serving as its counterpart. In my dissertation, I mainly focused on nocturnal darkness of the night, but sometimes also darkness that manifests itself in places without light, like in caves or interiors of buildings, inside of churches, and so on. But there are actually many metaphors used to identify darkness as a negative way. And those metaphors show beliefs regarding the night and the darkness. And we can say things like, go to the dark side, when we are moving into something bad. Forces of the darkness, they are not really a friendly group, aren't they? We can also say we are left in the dark when we are not told everything. And also, we have given name to the era, Dark Ages, which has a bad connotation, even though the time period, it was not that particularly savage or horrible. If you say go to the light or follow the light, it means we are thinking eternity and afterlife. And darkness is something we need to get out. And there's also something very human in the ways we portray darkness. We narrate night darkness by giving it active role. Darkness falls, but sometimes it rises or grows. Darkness sneaks and obscures the landscape, leaving visions dim. Darkness hides, it conceals and lurks, and also it fades into light. So it's quite active how we talk about darkness. But also different beliefs about darkness have also increased its active role, and we tend to believe it more frightening as it should be. But with our words, our beliefs, we give a power to darkness. So that's why I'm interested in darkness as an entity with agency. But anyway, through the history of mankind, darkness has been feared, probably because it obscures the surroundings and then your imagination can take over. But aside imagined threats, the shadows of the night have also concealed real perils. Still, many people, for different reasons, they were traveling in the darkness of the night. The pursuit of an unusual experience even became important for others. They wanted to experience something different. And of course, how humans experience darkness might have a lot to do with the fear of the dark. Arguably, people have associated different beliefs and symbolisms with night because of its unknown, mysterious qualities. And there are many historians who have written about night, like Gunnar Broberg. He has said that day and night, or light and darkness, have firmly set on opposite sides of two elements, and they are always fight with each other. And also one historian, Roger Eggers, has said the darkness of the night is palpable. According to him, night was man's first necessary evil, our oldest and most haunting terror. What if the sun would not rise again? So the prospect of total eternal darkness was frightening. On the other hand, there are some research who think that is it actually a fear of the dark, or is it actually more of like fear of the unknown? So if the fear of the dark is a fear of unknown, it might be not just a fundamental fear, but the fundamental fear. So when considering darkness through the lenses of the fear of the unknown, it's no wonder if people have seen and experienced darkness quite like threatening. But actually also, when you think about darkness, it always related to spatiality and experiencing a place. It's always, the darkness is always experienced in some space and place. It's always somewhere, and it changes the environment where you are in. And also at night, the sensory hierarchy changes. There's actually a old Scottish saying, the day has eyes, but the night has ears. So the nocturnal experience was quite oral. And at night, you must rely on other senses than sight. So hearing, touch, and smell. So some centuries ago, when you were traveling through the night, through the darkness, so you have to hear the clatter of the horses' hooves on the cobblestones, ringing of the church's bells, or the barking of the dogs, and they helped to navigate in the darkness of the night. And also at night, the hierarchy between senses also changes, because when the traveler becomes exposed to a new environment and unfamiliar sensory stimuli. Because the senses have a communicative role. Yes, they give us signals, and all these stimuli around us, surrounding the world, they are messages for us. So it's significant that the senses adapt themselves to this stimuli. So the sound you hear every day will no longer be registered, or the smell you are already used. So while the communicative elements still exist, the adaptation of the senses mean that the communication becomes ignored, and it's no longer described in the sources, in the historical sources. So one way to approach this is by looking at the breaking points in the adaptation of the senses, like in travel writers, like in 17th, 18th, 19th centuries. They leave familiar sensory stimuli unarticulated because it's normal, they are used to it. But unusual stimuli, however, it's more likely to be noticed and recorded in writing, in travel writing. Since the traveler is usually in a new environment anyway, and since the night and nocturnal darkness also represents quite like unfamiliarity, it follows that nocturnal traveler is in a particularly foreign and unfamiliar situation. So how I see it, the nighttime and the darkness of the night, nocturnal darkness, is like a double foreign place. It's unfamiliar in unfamiliar, if you get the idea. But also the sensory perceptions that are registered, they form feelings and emotional states through which the experiencer mirrors himself and gives different meanings what we see and feel and hear. And some situations, of course, evoke stronger emotional reactions than others. Sometimes very natural could have affected the experience and evoke different emotions depending on the situation in which it's experienced. But or either the fear of the unknown or imagination or sensory perceptions, we easily give different meanings to things in the dark, depending how it makes us feel, what emotions it evokes. So that's why I use travel literature as a source material, because I argue that by studying travel literature through the emotions evoked by the darkness and nocturnal surroundings, one can find experiences in the texts that are not repetitions of each other, since not everyone has even mentioned at all nighttime. So it's already different and forms a difference. So I search experiences from the past. So I need the written experiences, so that how travelers have described the darkness, the night, the moonlight, stars, dusk, etc. What words they have used, like emotional vocabulary, in which context they have mentioned darkness and the night, and how it has been written, like the word order. So it is tell us how people in the past, how they felt, how they experienced the night skies, the dark skies, darkness. And also when traveling, the darkness was encountered in various ways. And there are many descriptions in the travel journals. Sometimes it was also only referred night or those hours without the sun. Sometimes darkness is mentioned when entering such place, like thick forest or a cave or inside buildings. But also what we have to deal when thinking about the darkness and the past experiences of it is aesthetics, because there have always been so many different beliefs about night and darkness in different times, and also different ideas what have been considered beautiful. So as aesthetic ideals, they have varied, and for that reason, something even horrifying might have been considered magnificent and cause astonishment. During the Romantic era, from the late 18th century, attitude towards the scenery changed, and rugged, wild, and sublime was preferred. The landscape was to be experienced, not just viewed from afar. So according to this philosopher, in 18th century philosopher Edmund Burke, he thought that darkness evokes greater emotion than its opposite, light. And fear is a pivotal element in experiencing a strong emotion. And Burke has stated that obscurity makes everything terrifying. And without a strong reaction, nothing can be a sublime experience and evoke emotions of amazement, awe, and astonishment. So darkness obscures surroundings and is frightening, and therefore it gives you even greater emotions. So if the aesthetic standards of the time, it's no wonder if darkness was also considered beautiful and appreciated. So like Jed told us earlier, astonishment and all the beautiful things, so darkness can be element experiencing those. But of course, also it is difficult to understand and navigate in darkness without light. While light enables us to move in the dark, it only illuminates a small radius, and in so doing, it effectively obscures the surroundings. A small light source often only emphasizes the darkness around. So both artificial and celestial light, even though the mystical splendor they create when illuminating the night, it still factors with the experiencing the aesthetics of darkness. And there are also this historian, Greg Kozlowski, has stated that in the early modern period, nocturnalization constituted a revolution as urban darkness was overcome with artificial light, like street lighting. And people could take more part of the social activities, even the darkness fell at the night because there was street lighting. So it helped to experience the darkness in the cities. And also, sorry, I have a flu. With the help of the night, yes, the night actually became a part of the extension of the day, and you can have fun during the dark hours also. But when you are traveling at the night, yes, you can be dependent on the moon and the stars, but it's quite fickle. If there's a cloudy day, cloudy night, the moon goes away and you can see the stars. So it's always a little bit harder. And of course, you could hire a link boy. You can somebody who carry a torch or lantern before you when you're walking. And these link boys were known as the moon cursors because their antipathy towards the moon, whom they considered rival light bearer and threat to their livelihood. But yeah, so there are many ways to navigate into darkness with the light or without light, or depending on the celestial light. But it's also still have been quite fickle and maybe hazardous, inconvenient. But I will read you some examples, some quotes in my source material, so you get the idea how actually people have described darkness. Like here, Hester Lynch Piozzi, who traveled, for instance, in Italy, she wrote, "The general effect produced by such architecture, such painting, such pillars illuminate as I saw them last night by the moon at full, rising out of the sea, produced an effect like enchantment." And also she wrote, and I quote, "We were driving last night to look at the Coliseo by moonlight. There were a few clouds that would break the expanse of the azure and show the gilding." So you can see Hester appreciated the sights and the sceneries at the night by the moonlight. And also, this is quite a long quote, but this is Charlotte Ann Eaton. She traveled with her sister through Europe to Italy, to Rome. And she also had written how, this is a long one, but the setting sun burst from the sky, painting the landscape, lighting up every object with a sudden enchantment. And she continues describing this beautiful scenery. And then she continues, "We turn from this scene as its transient brightness was fading away, plunged into the darkness of the woods, and the night closed in upon us long before we have ascended. So you can see from here also, it was a beautiful evening, and then the darkness came. And also she continues in this quote, the same Charlotte, that I know not how to describe to you their beauty, but visit them in the repose of evening, when that moon, which here shines like a brighter planet, walks in her glory through the heavens, when the stars awake their mysterious fires, the soft moonbeam falls upon the lines of the Grecian columns. Visit them then, and you will feel their enchantment. And here she describes how she visited the site, the Colosseum, for example. So according to her, it's the best time to visit the sites of ancient Rome. It's during the night when the moon is shining. And I will skip this one because we don't have that much time, but this more interesting. Lady Mary Wortley Montagu in the end of 18th century. You can see the senses. I set out in his chase at 9 at night, the moon being at full, and I saw the prospect of the country almost as well as I could have done by daylight. And the heat of the sun is now so intolerable that's impossible to travel at any other time. And also they went to see the ruins of Troy. And also she said that I took the pains rising at 2 in the morning to view coolly those ruins. So you can really understand that at the daytime in Tunis, it was really, really too hot. So it was better possibility to visit the sites, to see the sceneries during the night time because the cool night air. And of course, always the night is not dark. Like Mary Wollstonecraft has written, nothing in fact can equal the beauty of the northern summer's evening and night. If night it may be cold, that only wants to clear the day, a full light, which frequently seems to impertinent, for I could write at midnight very well without a candle. So of course, night is not always dark, at least in Finland and Scandinavia, the summertime. But yes, beautiful, serene,
Susanna,
and convenient, solitary,
Susanna.
adventure, sublime, wonder, opportunity to experience something new. These are the experiences, the travelers in the past, how they experienced the darkness. So they are quite same things we want to do nowadays. And so in the end of my presentation, I just quickly show some examples how we have used, how we have inspired by darkness when we have had these different events and guided tours. Like in Turku Castle, where I work, it's a medieval castle. So we have planned these events and guided tours. Adventure event for school children in the evening, where we dim the lights and we play with other senses, and children can perform tasks and learn what was the castle like at night. It's really, really popular. And also guided tours in the dark castle, when we tell grim and gruesome fates that have happened in the castle, and the dark castle is quite like a background and emphasizing the experience in the dim candlelight, LED candles, of course, in the museum. But also in Luostarimäki, one of our museums, open air museum where all the houses stand in the original sites, over 200 years old. So in there we have had guided tours by the light of hand lanterns, and we tell about street lighting and how it was to live without that much light. And the audiences, they really engage the stories that the guide tells, and it's really important for the participants that they can get to carry their own lantern. And also in Kylämäki village, there's storytelling and folklore. It's an old open air museum as well. And in autumns, in the low season, there have been events that people gather around in 1950s drawing room, and in the only light is one candle, and a curator starts storytelling. She tells folktales, and atmosphere is palpable. The darkness immerses the listeners and makes it easier even for shy Finns to share their own ghost stories, because it's dark. It's a safe place. And also in our biological museum, we had event of nocturnal animals and nature. And there were short presentations, like birds that sing at night, an event. It was an evening, and it culminated to trip to nearby park to see the bats. They were spotting the bats. So yeah, there are numerous ways how we can, even nowadays, approach darkness and find different angles to harness it. Imagination, senses, fear, beliefs, aesthetics, and emotions. So all are pivotal to experiencing the darkness. So I hope I have guided you through the darkness and shed some light to it. Pun intended. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susanna, for I think giving us the opportunity to think about the sensory possibilities of darkness, and then also some examples here. So as we learned from both booking.com and BBC, so Noctourism, so the experience of the darkness, and like you showed in some of the cultural settings in the past, people actually looking to have a deeper experience. And I think this is something that is quite exciting. And just as a small footnote, so at the big travel fair Matka in Helsinki, we were talking about the same theme, and we got an article in Japan's biggest online media, and they thought it was so fascinating how to experience darkness in a positive way. If you have any questions for Susanna, so you can put them in the chat. Unfortunately, not all the presenters can access the chat for some reason, but we'll be then sending that on. But I would like to introduce the team from GLOW. Welcome you onto the stage. We have Timo and Daisy and Martina from 2 countries joining us. So the floor is yours.
Okay, I have very short presentation. I'm here just say to hello. I'm Timo Rui from Karelia University of Applied Sciences. I am a lead partner of this GLOW 2.0, and we decided that I will not give you a long presentation about GLOW, but Daisy and Martina will introduce what we have done and what is GLOW. Please, Martina and Daisy, floor is yours. Daisy, your voice is off.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
And the slides are fine as well?
Yes, we can see it. It's perfect. It's looking very good.
Yeah. Yes, so I think the previous 2 speakers told something about what we were going to speak about, so I'll try to skip some slides so we keep time. So I'm Daisy Silvanoinen. I work at Karelia University of Applied Sciences under the Research and Development team, and my background is in business economics and then this environmental policy and law. So I'll take that into this presentation as well, the mix of the 2. So I'll start with why darkness and dark sky, after which I'll tell what we mean by dark sky tourism. It's a little bit different from what the previous speaker just told. And then also these best practices, because we always have the dark tourism and we have dark sky tourism, just to make it clear. And then I'll tell a little bit about the best practices, and then Martina will continue with real best practice examples and giving also case studies from the region. And because Q&A doesn't work, so we try to send you the materials and resources when possible. Anyway, when we talk about darkness, just as Susanna told, without light, it's just no experience at all. It's this because you have no connection to the environment. But the one that we from GLOW are going to talk about is this time between sunset to sunrise, when you have just normal natural light or this artificial light at night, which is just enough, not too much, giving you that ability to connect with that environment, to experience those spaces, which then can offer you meaningful experiences, or that you can also admire these aesthetics of spaces. Like you saw in Susanna's last slide about the Van Gogh. You can maybe think what he thought when he painted that. And then usually these spaces also can offer you connection through science, if it's astronomy, for example, through history, and then through narratives, like the stories of the place, the area-based stories or narratives that have come from that. And when we talk about darkness, we also in GLOW bring this light pollution, only because light pollution is this inappropriate or excessive light that then can affect depending on the intensity, the ability for people to enjoy these dark environments or dark sky. So we were asked to present what means dark sky tourism. So then I thought, why dark sky? Why dark sky in tourism? What are the values and benefits that people are looking for, or what benefits they hold dear that they want to experience also in tourism? And some of these are nature benefits, there are culture benefits, there are these health benefits, and then there are economic benefits. And here you can see, for example, efficiency is one of those benefits from the ecological side, sustainability, and then just ecology itself. When we think about these habitats and connection between tourism, for example, and food, because tourism and food go hand in hand, and these dark environments offer both tourism experience, but they also act as places for nocturnal pollinators, for example. And then we have the cultural aspects, like the stories that have been told of the place, the narratives that exist, and so on, the folk and legends. And then we also have just the ability, like Jed told, to experience this. If you want to see UNESCO sites, for example, at night, how are they? So what is the connection between that and light? These lights. An example is this. There are 4 different types of light pollution, and one is the glare. This can affect, for example, the nocturnal insects and birds, and also if you think about security, if you can't see what's coming from the end, so how to light it a bit better. And then there's the glow that goes upward, and this can affect, for example, the ability to see auroras. And those who have lived maybe in a place, let's say Narvik, for last 60 years can maybe think, how was it then and how has it changed now? What is the relation between that and light? And then there's this that when we think of tourism, it's about the sleep. How do you get good sleep? How do you impact your neighbors that they're able to regenerate during the night, get good sleep, and be able to take part in activities next day? And the clutter is just a combination of all this, which is worse. And these researches that have been done on this have mainly been for birds, or how they disorient birds during migration, for example. But I don't go into detail in that. So when we look at that light pollution connection to tourism, if we can, this light pollution affects the environment indirectly through the emissions that comes from this lighting, but then also the energy costs. If you think as a tourism SME, how much do you pay for the extra or unnecessary lighting? Is it needed? And then we have the nocturnal wildlife and animals. We have this night sky heritage you saw before. And then we also have this human and animal health. For example, there have been researches of relation between the artificial light at night exposure to cancer, for example. And then there's this biodiversity and food security I already told, and then the economy itself, tourism. How far you have to drive to see these environments? Can you even offer it if you're too much within the night, within these night polluted areas? I like this a lot. It was by this Christian, who is a senior lighting designer from Iceland. While we were there, he was presenting and he told that the night no longer holds the same darkness it once did. But what I liked most about his presentation is later on, as he went through, he said that as a light designer, he felt responsible. I am among those responsible. To become a good light designer, you need to understand where not to add light. He was giving us a presentation about how he started taking into consideration, or how he has developed as a light designer, taking also these night issues into account. But can we create meaningful night spaces? This is what we've been asking in GLOW. How can we do it? Can we take away this glare, trespass, and sky glow so we can enjoy the nightscapes? And at the same time, can we illuminate places so that we can see the things we are intended to see, like those UNESCO sites, for example? We don't have time, so I go a bit quicker. But those are some ways that you as a person can act. But of course, there are ways that you can act as a society and all, but you get those as links in the chat or later on. I thought to show this one example of when we have this relationship between night and light. artificial lighting at night. This is in Suuriavaara, here next to us here in Eastern Finland, this place B. I hope you can see my arrow. And here is where I am in C. And this is a little bit further, the A is a little bit further from the B. So if you look at the down side of the photo in the middle down, you can see that the B is where this is Suuriavaara, but on this all sky camera, they've been measuring light pollution there for a while now, and you can see that this is Joensuu, towards Joensuu, which is this, and this is towards Juankoski, and you can see the intensity also somehow shows or matches with what you see there. And this means in practical terms that he can see this is from his facility, and where I am, depending where I am within this, this is my view in the similar day-night sky. So then when I spoke about the UNESCO sites, these are some of the examples. I like these illustrations by Dark Sky Ireland. It's about responsible lighting. You'll get the link, and it tells at least what you can do as an SME. How do you light spaces? What do you want people to see? And how does the color of light affect also people? But I told that one of the reasons behind this need for darkness was those benefits and values that come from darkness. But we also have this climate change, mass tourism, which are indirectly linked to that light pollution. So it's about this, people are looking more, like Jed told and Susanna told, people are looking more towards responsible tourism, towards sustainable tourism, and also that they have some regenerative aspects, teaching about appreciation of these environments or regenerating. For example, you can talk about regenerating darkness in places that are a bit much into the light polluted areas. And this I won't go through because Jed managed to go through them, but I can just highlight that activities people are looking for over 60%. This was also the booking.com are looking for activities during cooler evenings, which is partly from the climate change impacts. Like some destinations have, or some times of the year have been so hot that they are inclining more towards these cooler evenings or early mornings. And then they're also looking for these limited light pollution areas. Could they be the ones that are living under the light pollution areas? We saw that Japan, at least when James told us well, that it was quite interesting for them, exotic, because if you have lived under light, you might maybe don't know the difference. And then also sleep-focused retreats, somehow linked to light as well. And then health retreats, and then some are looking for these innovative sustainability features or just less touristy spots. So they want to go during the low season to places when it's not mass time or peak time. And then also that people prefer these loose itineraries, but Martina will tell you a little bit about that as we go along. So to conclude, it's that this dark sky tourism technically means that people who want to travel to destinations to observe these celestial objects or join in activities that offer something related to those. So they don't always have to be outside in the nature. They can also be brought indoors. And examples of these are observatory, dark sky parks, thematic accommodations, thematic indoor-outdoor activities, products, and then immersive experiences, which act as plan B when the weather doesn't allow, like Jed told in the beginning. So, but it needs to be kept in mind that these experiences can also be offered in urban areas if light pollution can be managed. And then if you are, for example, in a pristine area that has this 21.2 over arc meter second in this for this light pollution, which you can be done by using this dark sky meter to measure those, then you can always also apply. There are certification mechanisms that are available for application, and you can get the slides later. But then usually an SME will ask, what is then the potential of that dark sky? I liked this. It was first shared by our associated partner, the Sodankylä Observatory representative, and it shows that this is a map of the USA during the solar eclipse last year. And you can see that during that time, the accommodation facilities were all fully booked. It's one way of telling how does this one eclipse also affect the rest of the activities in the area, the accommodations. When they come, they need food. When they come, they also want to join in other activities and so on and so forth. So it's technically about telling about the darkness, which is different in every place. We all have different types of environments. And then we have the life in the dark, telling about it your own way, the stories of the night sky, and then also adventuring in the dark in a more safe. You have to do it safely, of course. So I classified this in short, just so that you can see that it's not only about science tourism. When we talk about it always is that, yeah, the sky, it's astrotourism, but it's not. You can also combine science, nature, and culture, just as with other.
Oh, it seems like Daisy has disappeared into outer space. Perhaps would you be able to take over, Martina? I don't know what happened there, but
yeah, mine froze there for a second as well, mid while she was speaking, so I wasn't sure. Yeah, I can take up. I think she was getting close to the end anyway, so I'm hopefully she can come back in there. So I'm Martina Dolan. I work with Údarás na Gaeltachta in Ireland, and I'm partners with Daisy and Timo on the GLOW project. So I'm just going to get my PowerPoint up here. Bear with me. Hopefully we have enough technical and everything will be fine. Can everyone see that now?
Yeah, it's perfect now.
Perfect. And you can hear me okay?
We can hear you very well.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Right, so I want to go through, I suppose, the other side of the GLOW project, where we have been over the last 2 years in Ireland working, and all of our other regions, with SMEs and different businesses. We've been running workshops, service design workshops, to see what they would need to give a dark sky offering. So this is businesses that had a potential to extend their operations. So maybe businesses that had a summer season, but what could they do in the winter? So we've been working with community development groups. We have a lot of non-for-profit community development groups in Ireland where they're coming on board with us, maybe getting toolbox kits, kind of with binoculars, red torches. We're accommodation providers in the area. They might offer a late checkout if people are coming to the area doing stargazing, or give them a complimentary stargazing kit to go out. And nature walks. We have a lot of already established nature walks developed along the regions we're in, but there isn't much use for them during the winter months. So we're trying to raise awareness with businesses and go, well, you could utilize these, more sustainable. They're already there, already established, and take out nighttime stargazing tour guides, give walks, kayaking for water activities, also some guided photography. Mayo Dark Sky Park, who I will talk about later, have run some workshops on dark sky photography, and they're really popular. People are really interested in how to take nighttime photos, be it with their phones or a camera. I will run through, we have some dark sky festivals also that are ran here. So I'm actually in Mayo, in the west of Ireland, and we do have a gold tier park in our county. So they have established a festival. So I will share that with you later on. And storytelling sessions also. That's something for people who are giving the guided tours, to have a story, link it back to something cultural, something related in the area. Okay, so I'll just go on here. So case studies and collaborations. So this is kind of generic information just about growing your business. And I think it was Jed that said it earlier about engaging with the community at the beginning. And we found that's very important. Any of the workshops we've had, it's to get collaborations, get businesses working together. So some dark sky offerings, they're quite rural, quite remote areas. People necessarily may not travel there just to go and see the dark sky. So to collaborate with the business, do like a day itinerary where they can do something during the day, if there's museums, walks, tours, and then at nighttime, a dark sky experience. So to design the package for the tourist that's coming and share that on their social media for businesses to work together, as I said, in a collaboration, and to help extend their season, come together and do online booking systems where they can book together as a group booking. Customer reviews, again, encourage customers to put up good reviews. We've had the Auroras in Ireland here last May. So to be honest, for promoting dark sky tourism, it's been a good few months. There's loads of photos been taken and shared, and customer repeat programs. So they're just different key things that we're working with smaller businesses on how for them to establish their business. This is Mayo Dark Sky Park. So this is a gold tier park. So it's Ireland's first gold tier park. It's located in County Mayo. It is a national park. So it's a Wildnafen National Park. And then it's a dark park, like after dark. So that's how they kind of half the park is dark. So during the daytime, they have beautiful boardwalks. They have a visitor center there. It's over 150 kilometers, exceptional dark skies. But then at nighttime, they do dark sky tourism walks every Friday night. So they have some great looped trails. This is all already established. It's all free. Anyone can come in anytime they want. A lot of it is accessible. There's a car park, a boardwalk, which is great for people that might have difficulties at getting out late at night time. It's extremely accessible. You can see the Milky Way from down there, just pristine, clear skies. It's beautiful. They won an award last year for Dark Sky Place of the Year, 2024. And they have their commitment is preserving the dark skies. They're actually looking to move for our county to be a dark sky reserve, one of the largest dark sky areas. So they're raising a lot of awareness, and they do a lot of this through their festivals. So they run 2 different festivals during the year. They run one, it's during Dark Sky Week and also during Astronomy Week. But I'll briefly go over this. So what they do, it's really, really good. There's 3 different locations here. So they're spreading this out into their whole community within the park. So you have Ballycroy on a Friday, Mulranny on a Saturday, and Newport. So again, it's a community element. And they have events from Lego workshops for kids, rocket making, dark sky walks. They do a gala dinner, and they also have a mobile planetarium. So it's a whole family experience, while raising awareness of the light pollution and helping all the businesses in that area to promote their own businesses and generate tourism. It brings in visitors for them during this period. So, and this is just a sample. Again, this is the Astronomy Week. So it's a different type of criteria that they have on, different workshops that they run. So people can look at that again. It's just for ideas, and it's growing in numbers every single year. So the next park we have in Ireland that I just wanted to show with you is Ulm Dark Sky Park. This is in Northern Ireland. So this is different. The Mayo Park is like a national park. They have a telescope and a stargazing viewing point, and it was built in 2020, actually, and COVID hit around that time. So for the first year, it was quite hard for them to get up and running. But they have lovely information boards. They have a VR experience. But outside of it, if you can see from here, this is the observatory that they have built with the telescope. But here they have this outside seating area, and it's an Odyssey seating area. So people can come and sit there, and they actually have a projector where they project shows onto the side of their building, just different dark sky experiences. But they've also started doing like Christmas, Easter, Halloween for family and friends to come to the park in the evening time, experience the show. There's guided walks through the forest. For sustainable tourism, it's really, really good, and it's developed a lot in that area. Down the road, not far from there, we can see another business that has started, and that is Sperrin Glamping. So these are really unique glamping pods. So they have an angled roof, if you can see here at the front. So actually from when you're lying in the bed, you can actually view the stars and stargaze. So this business was developed as a result of the Dark Sky Park. So when we're talking to businesses and they're like, well, why? What's the economic value? How much business will I get from this? So this is built since, and they're doing extremely well. It's booked out a lot of the time. Also in the area, Airbnbs, a load more have popped up, bed and breakfasts, and some cafes and coffee shops, mobile coffee docks where people are coming into the area. So it has started generating tourism and income for an area that would have had nothing prior to the observatory and the dark sky area that was developed in the forest. As part of GLOW, we traveled to Iceland recently, and this was just another unique experience that we came across. and it's Aurora Base Camp. So these are domes inside, and you can see a proportion here at the front is clear, so you can visually look out and stargaze. They do an immersive experience also inside, but these are out in the wilderness in a rural area. Well, it's about 25 minutes from Reykjavik, where these are located. But they do birthday parties, weddings, everything inside there, and tours all of the time. So it was really interesting business that they have developed in a rural area around the dark sky tourism. This is another partner actually that Daisy and them have been working with, a Finnish tourism company. You can click on these links because we'll share them afterwards, but they have designed packages, like 5-day packages, 7-day packages, where you can come and do all of these winter activities. And it's a great display of how like collaborations work, different smaller businesses coming together that maybe wouldn't have had an industry, but now they're all wrapped up as a package, again, making it easy for the tourists to come, but to support all these small businesses as well. So you'll be able to click on those links later and share them if you like. So when I was talking about BOEM and we have Mayo Dark Sky Park, we don't have any like economic studies done here in Ireland. And that's a lot of things I find when we're working with SMEs, like what are the overheads for them to develop a dark sky tourism? What do they need? What are the challenges? This was one study that was done, actually, it's based in the UK, Kielder Water and Forest, Northumberland National Park. So they have an economic study done. You can view this online. Their dark sky park was set up back in 2013. So it was just a national park. However, they built this observatory that you can see here. And I suppose as a knock-on effect of that, they have been able to support over 450 jobs, where they may have been like a summer tourism season there, nothing for winter really, but now they're able to keep people continuously employed throughout the winter months. There's over 25 million economic benefit, and a lot of businesses in the area where maybe they weren't investing in their hotels or developing them or maybe doing them up, a lot of them have reinvested. Over 13% had said they'd actually reinvested back into their businesses. There's been an increase in accommodation providers, from your Airbnbs to your bed and breakfast and everything in the area. So I do find that one, it's quite interesting because it actually shows the facts and the figures, I suppose, when we are working with SMEs in rural areas on how sustainable and what would their challenges be and benefits to developing a dark sky tourism offering. Next here, so boosting tourism through dark sky initiatives. Okay, so I guess our main aim really was extend the season. Okay, it's kind of a summary really of what we've gone through. Hikes, culture, wildlife to attract all year round visitors. Oh, apologies, sorry. Let me just go back. So we have a lot of in the area, like rural, like old churches, old cathedrals, different things like that, where you can wrap around your dark sky tourism event, maybe with a culture event, tie it into something else. As we said, do more of a collaboration locally with restaurants, hotels, and tour providers. Make it as easy as you can for the tourist. That's what, when we're doing researches and surveys, it's like, well, what's in the area? Is it worth traveling just for one day, one night? And you want them to come and stay for longer, spend more money in the area, promote the businesses that are in the area, and help them be more sustainable. Showcase uniqueness. Well, yeah, I suppose promote our dark skies. Anyone that has them, they're pristine dark skies. So it's to promote them, but also protect them, as Daisy would have referenced in the light pollution. So it kind of goes hand in hand. The one thing with light pollution, you can simply turn off the lights and it can be changed, or you can do sensitive lighting. It's an easy one to fix. Some other pollutions will take years and years to rectify. Light pollution is one that can be addressed quite quickly, but it's raising awareness, and it's amazing a lot of businesses didn't even realize what the impact of their lights were doing. Enhance accessibility, again, make it easy for the tourist coming to the area. Online booking systems, sustainability matters again. So focus on ecotourism practices to protect the dark skies. So we've been doing a lot of that, like with when you're working with the businesses and getting them to promote and give a dark sky offering, well, you also need to give the whole package. So you be mindful when you're out at nighttime of all the nocturnal animals, all of that, the light pollution your own business is given, and raising awareness on it all while trying to build the sustainable dark sky tourism. So that's me, I think, from there. That was a bit quick maybe and a summary, but a lot of that information, as I said, you can read through it again. It was just ideas on collaborations and festivals that when we share that with other areas, they're like, oh, I never even thought that those 5 things together could be a fun day out for somebody. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Martina, and also Timo and Daisy for a great presentation about the possibilities of using stargazing and dark skies in tourism services, and some fantastic examples from Ireland as well. That's really great to see. I put in the chat all the links that were mentioned, and if you're listening afterwards on the recording, so they'll all be linked somewhere, either in the presentations or then in the chat box down below. Again, apologies for the technical issues we had in the beginning, and I hope we have everyone on board now. As we did have those challenges in the beginning, I forgot to introduce myself. My name's James Simpson, and I'm project manager of the Light in the Dark project, working in all the countries. And just as a very quick wrap up, so I think then Martina also ended very nicely there about, again, reiterating the need for collaboration. And of course, darkness and dark skies is not enough for the tourism offering to attract, but it can be part of the tourism mix in your destination. And I think all the examples that were shown by both Daisy and Martina and also Susanna show that there are a lot of possibilities of using the dark periods for really creating cozy and emotional experiences for tourists. And in that way, both playing, I like also what Daisy was talking about, actually the light and how to design the light and the darkness. So working both with the possibilities to introduce light and then also the possibility to introduce darkness. And some of those maps, of course, showing us very clearly that our main markets are all areas that don't have very much darkness and are suffering from light pollution. And also then at the end, again, collaboration and also the need for both digital and physical accessibility. So in digital, so both distribution and sales channels, and then also being accessible for different target groups. I've had a lot of inspiration today, and I have a lot of ideas from this very short 1.5 hours, and I hope you also have received the same. We will give all the links, as I mentioned, and you can follow up in to the upcoming webinars of both projects and also the different publications and the different outcomes that are found on both respective tourism project pages. And a little teaser, we have our next webinar coming up. It's actually a in-person conference in Estonia, in the beginning of Estonia, beginning of March, 11th of March, but we're also streaming one day. It will be in English, and it's for nature-based tourism entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, we don't have the sign-up link at the moment, but it's coming very, very soon. You'll find it on our website and on our social pages. But a big thanks to you for joining, and also a big thanks to all our presenters today. We hope you have an enjoyable springtime and looking forward now, not to the darkness, but then the coming summer and the lightness. Thank you very much.